At the beginning of the movie, a car was seen driving towards a small tourist town in the mountains known as the Big Bear. Then, three friends, Mike, Sarah and Danny, were seen having a reunion after 10 years of not seeing each other. They were very happy to be in the city because they could take off their masks and hug each other. The three planned to spend a few days together in the mountain town by renting a cabin. In the evening, they relaxed by the fire. Danny reads a brochure about activities that can be done in the city, while Sarah and Mike danced and joked. After that they sat outside and lit a bonfire and drank and smoked. They told each other about their personal lives, including Danny, who turned out to be divorced from his wife. They drank and had fun. Sarah reminded them that they were going up the mountain tomorrow, so she would wake them both up the next day no matter what. Outside there were strange noises as they went inside. The voice came from the woods near their cabin. The next day, they were ready to climb the mountain. Mike was in charge of carrying supplies. They finally started climbing the hill, talking and joking along the way. On the way, suddenly Mike stepped on something like black slime. Then they saw many things that looked like insect nests. A curious Danny tried to touch one of the nests, even though his two friends had warned him. Before touching it, something suddenly appeared from inside the nest and stung Danny's finger. Danny was surprised as well as two of his friends. Seeing this strangeness, the three of them finally decided to return to the cabin. After arriving at the cabin, they rested. Sarah and Mike were chatting in the living room, and they were talking about Sarah's relationship with her boyfriend. Then Sarah searched Mike's bag, which she thought had too much stuff. Inside Mike's bag, Sarah finds many items including the knife that Mike kept. Mike said he carried the knife with him just in case he needed it, because when we are in nature, of course we don't know what will happen. Danny, who was in the bathroom, looked at his blackened fingertips. Before long, a man's voice asking for help outside the cabin was heard, which shocked the three of them. Mike then opened the door and was surprised to see an injured man asking for help. The stranger said that he was being chased by something and forced his way into the cabin. After that, Sarah called 911 for help because the man forced his way in. They also locked the door to keep it safe until the police arrived. It wasn't long before the police arrived to secure the man. Mike had a chance to chat with the police, who asked the purpose of the three of them coming to the city. Mike said that they only met after such a long time apart. After that we returned to the cabin and the police left the place. When in the way of complaining about the police that looked scary and made him feel weird. Then Danny said goodbye to sleep when Sarah and Mike realized that the wound on Danny's finger looked really bad. They asked Danny to have it checked, but Danny refused. Sarah and Mike then planned to force Danny to go to the doctor if he was still sick the next day. Danny, who had a fever, looked very agitated, and a voice was heard which told him to look at the baby. Then Sarah came to check on Danny and asked if he was okay. Danny also said if he was okay even though he actually felt something strange. Sarah then went to Mike's room and they spent the night together. The next day when they woke up, they didn't find Danny in his room. They were confused that Danny didn't go in his car or call an ambulance. Mike and Sarah finally decided to find Danny. They kept looking for Danny in the woods until the sun was about to set. Even though they had searched all day, they still couldn't find Danny and decided to go home and report to the police. Surprisingly, when they returned, they saw that the cabin light was on and smoke was coming from the fireplace. Danny was already in the foyer, and this took Sarah and Mike by surprise. Danny said if he just went to calm his mind for a moment. Mike was annoyed at Danny for making him almost freeze in the cold while looking for him outside. Meanwhile, Sarah was worried if something happened to Danny. Danny said he was fine. Then after that, Sarah talked to Danny, who was standing outside the cabin. Sarah told Danny that she was dating Mike. Danny was silent when Sarah asked him if it wasn't a problem for him. Because Danny didn't respond, Mike finally tried to talk about his relationship with Sarah. Hearing this, Danny suddenly got angry and strangled Mike. Mike was very upset, and he asked Sarah to leave the place in the morning. Mike then packed all his things when Sarah came into the room. He asked Mike to stay calm because she understands what Danny was doing because he has been through a lot. Sarah told Mike that Danny's ex-wife was pregnant after years. They tried to have children. But Danny's wife miscarried, and he tried to kill himself. Hearing this, Mike still didn't care, and he was also angry at Sarah, who still continued to defend Danny. Then I saw I was crying and heard a voice outside. When he saw Danny walking out and tried to call him, but Danny didn't care. Sarah then took a bottle of wine and a blanket, then got into the car to sleep. After that, some strange colorful lights appeared all around. The next day, Sarah woke up and tried to find her two friends in the cabin. Sarah found no one inside when she heard Danny's voice screaming that something had happened to Mike. Hearing that, Sarah was frightened and she knew that Danny had harmed Mike. Sarah immediately ran to save herself into the woods, but Danny, who saw her, immediately chased after Sarah. Sarah kept running to avoid being chased from, and finally she hid behind the bushes. Danny didn't find Sarah, who's hiding. When it was dark, Sarah woke up and she came out of hiding. She was about to return to the cabin when suddenly he found Mike's body under a tree with a green light beside it. Mike's body was covered in black mucus. Seeing this, Sarah immediately burst into tears. She didn't expect it to happen. It wasn't long before Danny's voice was heard, still looking for Sarah. Sarah, who heard Danny's voice, immediately hid behind a tree. She then took out his knife from his pocket. When Danny approached and almost caught him, Sarah immediately put the knife on Danny's head and other body parts. After lying down due to the stabs, Sarah asked who was actually inside Danny's body. Danny then replied that they were everywhere and they were the ones who infected Danny's body to make him a bad person. Unable to bear to hear it all, Sarah also killed the creature. Sarah was frustrated by it all. He didn't think that his vacation would be a disaster. After that, Sarah tried to leave the place when she saw many things like white plants in front of her. And that's how the movie ends. It was quite a movie, right? If you liked the video, don't forget to give your like and hit the bell button. Also subscribe full movie recap to get more upcoming videos. See you.